Now for this last week, we're going to look at some awfully cool things you can do with the HTML5 canvas element. Now we've seen the canvas element before when we did the homework project 2A, the last problem that had to do with changing the colors of the images by processing arrays. And it turns out that that's actually a really important way that you can access the data that's in an HTML canvas. Let's start with a few examples of what the canvas actually can do for us. You will find that as we program, as we write code that works with the canvas, that it's very unlike working with the DOM. With the DOM, we've been accustomed to dealing with HTML elements that have a bunch of methods we can use, and we're very constrained in what we can do with them. We can set their positions using CSS styles and things like that. That's all going to change with the canvas element. The canvas element is much more like just what its name implies. It's like a surface upon which you can do all different kinds of manipulation of pixels. So let's look at some interesting examples of what you can do with the canvas element. This is, actually make it so that you can hear that if you like. Interesting little cartoon. So what this actually comes from a video called Big Buck Bunny, which was created using Blender and other open source tools, and it's available under a license that lets us use it here and redistribute it in this course. Now what you're looking at here is not an HTML video element, even though it seems to be behaving like one. What you're looking at is a canvas element. And in fact, what's happened with the canvas element here is the author of this code has used JavaScript to copy the bits from an HTML5 HTML video element to the canvas element, much like we copied the bits from the original image in that homework project into the canvas element that we used, the various canvas elements we used in that homework project for changing the image. Now, why would you copy the pixels from a video element into a canvas element? And you figure this has to be happening, I don't know, at least 30 frames per second, right? So 30 times per second, if not more, this data is getting copied from the video element to the canvas, and there's an awful lot of pixels there. This is a good size image on a page. Why would you do that? Well, one reason you would do that is so that you could do cool things like this. I clicked and it blew up. And then if we wait, it comes back together. In fact, I can click multiple times and you can see the video is being tiled and thrown all over the screen. And in fact, if you notice, the video is actually still playing inside those tiles, right? We're getting motion graphics inside the pieces of this video that have been flung around on the page. And the way this is being done, in a nutshell, isn't unlike what you were doing in Project 2A by manipulating the pixels using arrays. Now, the HTML canvas element lets you do a lot of other things besides that. It brings some of the more traditional graphics processing functionality into the browser. For example, when we blow these things up, what are we doing? We're taking a section of that video, carving out a rectangle of that, and we're translating it by moving it to another place. We're rotating it. It's a transformation we're applying in the form of a rotation to have it on another place. And the canvas lets you do things like that. We could take the origin, the top left corner, 0, 0, and actually make the origin the middle, and then rotate around the origin, right? These are the kinds of things that you can do with a canvas element, and you can have a lot of fun with this. And ultimately, when you come right down to it, yeah, there's some mathematics that go on in determining angles and positions and all that, but ultimately it's also just a lot of array processing like what you've done. Let's actually go and look. Let's look at the source and see, oh, the JavaScript is right here in the HTML, and you know, it's a fair amount of JavaScript code, but it's not a ton that somebody did in order to create this thing that you're seeing here, which is awfully cool. Now, just to show, there's a few other, lots of other examples of impressive things that you can do with the HTML5 canvas element. And this page contains a bunch of them. And this page is pretty old. It even says right here, it's 2010, right? This is a 5-year-old page. And when people were first starting to play with the canvas element. But here's another one, right? We've got somebody who's actually done the math to create something that basically behaves like a fabric, and I can even drag it and deform it and move it around, and there's obviously, you know, gravity happening here. So the math of making those things happen can be pretty complicated, and it's certainly not for the faint of heart. At the same time, the actual code of manipulating the image and what's making this happen, you know, again, we're really just manipulating JavaScript arrays, and the API that we'll look at shortly provides you with a lot of the tools that you need in order to make this happen. Let's see if there's one more that we could look at that might be sort of interesting. What would be good? Boy, there's an awful lot of good ones. Shattering box physics simulation. Let's try this one. So I've got boxes falling, and just like the video, I can fling them around and do stuff with it. So again, the physics modeling here is a certain amount of math that probably isn't that simple. Is that all it does? That's it. Oh, I can keep flinging this thing. So I went to college and learned JavaScript so I could do this on a web page. A lot of neat functionality that's here with the canvas. And so we're going to dive right in and take a look at how some of this stuff can be done. Now, in the page right below this video, there are links to various API resources, as well as this Canvas tutorial that's here on MDN. And, you know, unlike the kind of documentation you often find on MDN that's not that easy to follow, and, you know, you got to have kind of an advanced perspective to really understand it, this thing is very accessible, and I strongly recommend going through if you're interested in using the canvas. There's the basic usage that we're going to go over in the lesson, and then very quickly this gets into showing some detail that there's no point in us reproducing it in the course website, because what's here is very, very good, and it shows you the examples of how to use it. What we're going to do as we go through this lesson is kind of what we usually do. We're going to pick out an example and just start using these APIs to do some cool stuff to kind of show you how it goes together, and point you at the resources so that you can see the other sorts of things that are available and come up with ideas for writing your own code. So with that, and with these very cool examples that we've gotten to see, here we go again. Look at that spin. Let's look at the HTML5 canvas.